Babylonian star worship. An means heaven, god, star, or eagle, and when they are combined, it refers to chaos. In Babylonian mythology, it is Marduk, Mulban, who sent Anzu or Shah-Ur to destroy the land, and it is Marduk, or the myth thereof, which placed the Anunnaki in the heavens, Marduk the mighty hunter of the animal gods. How things change with progression. In ancient Greek times, it is Zeus who places Scorpius in the heavens as the protecting deity, who is protecting the animal gods from Orion, the mighty hunter. Everything has been reversed. Everything. Ancient Chaldea was undoubtedly the birthplace of that mysterious science of astrology, which was destined to exert such influence upon the European mind during the Middle Ages, and which, indeed, has not yet ceased to amuse the curious and flatter the hopes of the credulous, meaning the gullible. Naive, impressionable, trusting, over-trustful, exploitable, ripe for the picking, dupable, deceivable, easily deceived, etc., etc. Were there any people more primitive than the Akkadians had studied the movements of the stars? It would, indeed, be extremely difficult to say. This the Akkadians or Babylonians were probably the first to attempt. The plain of Mesopotamia is suited to the study of the movement of the stars. It is level for the most part, and there are few mountains around for which moisture can collect and obscure the sky. Moreover, the climate greatly assisted such observations. Like most primitive people, the Babylonians originally believed the stars to be a picture drawn on the heavens. At a later epoch, they were described as the writing of heaven. The sky was supposed to be a great fault, and the movements observed by these ancient astronomers were thought to be on part of the stars alone, meaning they were thought to be moving of their own accord. Of course, it would be noticed at an early stage that some of the stars seemed fixed, while others moved about. Lines were drawn, dot to dot, between the various stars and planets, and the figures which resulted from these were regarded as omens. Again, certain groups or constellations were connected with such lines, which led them to be identified with various animals, the animal gods, and in this we may observe the influence of animism, the attribution of a living soul to plants, inanimate objects, and natural phenomena. Alternatively, the belief in a supernatural power that organizes and animates the material universe. I don't know, similar to Anzu, the divine storm bird, the bringer of the life-giving rain, also known as the lion-faced demon. The Babylonian zodiac was, with the exception of the sign of Merodach, death and slaughter, the zodiac identified with the 11 monsters forming the host of Tiawath. Thus, it would seem that the zodiac system as a whole originated in Babylonia. The knowledge of the Chaldean astrologer appears to have been considerable, and it is likely that they were familiar with most of the constellations known to the later Greeks, where Scorpius is placed in the heavens as the protector over these animal gods. The legend of the origin of star worship and idolatry. The following legend is told regarding the origin of astrology by Maimonides, a famous Jewish rabbi and friend of Averroes, in his commentary in the Mishnah. In the days of Enos, the son of Seth, the sons of Adam were erred with a great error. The counsel of wise men of that age became brutish, and Enos himself was of them that erred. And their error was this: they said, for as much as God has created these stars and spheres to govern the world, and has set them on high, and has imparted honor unto them, and they are ministers who minister before him, it is meet that men should laud and glorify and give them honor. For this is the will of God, that we laud and magnify whomsoever he magnifieth and honoureth, even as a king would honour them that stand before him. And this is the honour of the king himself, when this thing come up into their hearts, they began to build temples unto the stars, and to offer sacrifice unto them, and to laud and magnify them with words, and to worship before them, that they might, in their evil opinion, obtain favour of their Creator. And this was the root for idolatry. This would include the worship of Malak, Memetim, synonymous with Anunnaki. Hold on a minute. Eridu, the city built by Cain for his son Enoch, where the knowledge of demons was born. And according to this, the sons of Adam also erred with this great error. It also seems like trickery, because their god was named Error. To them, their great error. And this was the roots of idolatry, from the rabbi perspective. The idolatry and hymns would also include Shalom Aleichem, and any other hymn, text, or religious work containing angels. It is a sin to call upon the angel of judgment, and this was the root for idolatry. For in process of time there stood up false prophets among the sons of Adam, which said that God had commanded them, and said unto them, An is heaven, God, star, or eagle. Worship such a star, or all the stars, and do sacrifice unto them, thus and thus, and build a temple for it, and make an image of it, that all the people, women and children, may worship it. And the false prophet showed them the image, which he had feigned out of his own heart, and said it was the image of that star, God, which was made known to him by prophecy. And they began after this manner to make images in temples, under trees, and on top of the mountains and hills. And they assembled together and worshipped them. And this thing was spread through all the world to serve images with services different one from another, simply meaning they shuffle the deck, so to speak, to sacrifice unto and worship them. So, in process of time, the glorious and fearful name was forgotten out of the mouth of all the living, and out of their knowledge, and they acknowledge him not, that is, not under his old name. And there was found on earth no people that knew anything, but for the images of wood and stone, and temples of stone, which they had been trained up from their childhood to worship and serve, and to swear by their names. And the wise men that were among them, the priest and such like, thought there was no God but for the stars and spheres, for whose sake and in whose likeness they had made these images. But for the rock everlasting, there was no man that did not acknowledge him, or know him, but for a few people in the world, as Enoch, Methuselah, Noah, Shem, and Heber. And in this way did the world work and converse, till that pillar of the world, Abram, our father, was born. The pillar of the world is the Sumerian tree. Remember, after this manner, they began to make images in temples, under trees, and on the tops of mountains and mounds. The name Abraham can mean the father of darkness, the sea of darkness, or the lion of darkness, which is a curse protecting the tablet, used to protect the tablet or anything else it is draped over. But through the process of time, the glorious and fearful name was forgotten. Actually, not forgotten at all. You know Zu, the oracle of the deep, Abzu, Zu, the father of wisdom, this wisdom. Hence Sin, the god of Ur, which would be the birthplace of Abraham. How the Anunnaki became identified with stars. To arrive at a proper comprehension of Babylonian religious doctrines, it is necessary to understand the nature of the astrological speculations of the ancient Chaldeans. They recognized at an early period that eternal and unchangeable laws underlay planetary motion, and seem to have been able to forecast eclipses. Soon after, they began to identify the several heavenly bodies with gods. Thus the path of the sun was known as the way of Anu, and the course of the moon and planets they determined with reference to the sun's ecliptic or pathway. It is strange, too, that they should have employed the same ideograph for the word star and the word God, the only difference being that in the case of a god, they repeated the sign 3 times. This would be the darksome trinity, originally Tiawath, Abzu, and Mumu, chaos, and in later Assyrian times, Anu is the god, the host of the lesser spirits, the 7. Their names change, but their number 7 does not, which are also the weapons of the plague god and fire god Debara, the seizer of the soul, alternatively the released deceiver. If the sun and the moon, under animistic law, are regarded as gods, it stands to reason that the stars and planets must also be looked upon as lesser deities. Indeed, poets still use an expression regarding them, the lesser spirits, as the host of heaven, and we frequently encounter in classical authors the statement that the stars, in their courses, fought for such and such a person. Again, they would be the Sabiti 7. You'll probably know them as guardian angels, but that would be the next stage in their evolution. This is tantamount to saying the stars possess volition, similar to AI being sentient. Volition is the willingness to work for one's self, similar to the light cipher, Lucifer. This willingness on part of the stars themselves as deities, daemon, or deific individuals, referring to a person possessed with a divine heavenly force. Again, we can see how the idea that the gods reside in heaven, that is, the sky, arose from the early astrological conceptions. Actually, Sumerian Heaven was inside the earth, a realm overlapping our own. The correct term would be the ether, the realm of the lion-faced demon, aka An-Zu, which can mean heaven's wisdom, or the wisdom of heaven. And that, my dear friends, is where the Anunnaki truly reside. They are not the spirits of the dead. They are something much worse. From a place where there is weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth. The outer darkness, a realm we cannot see. The gods were identified in many cases with the stars. Therefore, it is only natural to suppose that they resided in the sky. It is, indeed, one of the most difficult matters for even an intelligent and enlightened man in our enlightened age to disassociate the idea of God from a residence in the sky, or somewhere up there, over the rainbow, way up high. The idea of space, too, must have assisted in such a conception, as the residence of the gods in the upper regions of the air. The earth would not be large enough for them, but the boundless vault above would afford them plenty of space to dwell. But when they are contained within Pazuzu, Marduk, and Ashur, oh, that's fine, that's fine. The pit, Ishtar, was the original dwelling place of the gods. They were placed within the mother to fool us into their worship, and the stars are no different. Again, the sun and the moon being gods, it would only be natural for the other deities to dwell beside them, that is in the heaven of Anu, as the Babylonians called the sky. It has been suggested that the conception of a pantheon dwelling in the sky originated in the theological processes by a particular school or priesthood. But there is no reason to suppose that this was so, and the possibilities by the circumstances of the animistic theory. That is to say, that this priesthood is possibly possessed by demons. That would be the Ishipu, meaning exorcist, a name cognate with Sumerian tu, meaning exorcism, conjuration, and the adjective to interfere.